Hey, yo, welcome back. Hope you're ready to keep building that mental toolkit for your postgraduate exams.
Yeah, good to be diving in again.
If you found our previous explorations helpful, maybe give us a quick thumbs up or follow. It really helps us know we're, heading in the right direction.
Definitely.
So today, we're zeroing in on another crucial set of words, specifically those 25 from Day 30, Part 1 of your study materials.
Right. And we're not just about definitions today, are we?
Not at all. Forget just memorizing. We're going to look at how these words actually behave out in the wild, how they connect. Should make them stickier, easier to use.
Exactly. The goal is really to move past simple recognition. We want you to really get these words in action.
See how they relate.
See how they relate. Yeah, and sharpen up those reading comprehension skills. Make the vocabulary stick.
Like building a network in your head.
Precisely. So these words become active tools, not just items on a list.
All right, let's dive in. First group, bubble, slump, and slack. These immediately make me think about the economy, different states it can be in. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. Spot on. They describe different conditions, different phases. Take bubble. We hear stock market bubble, right? Prices zooming up, maybe too fast, not really based on solid ground, like a bubble that could burst.
Yeah, that image really works. Fragile.
It does. And you've got the literal meaning, too. Water starting to bubble when it boils. Again, something kind of temporary, potentially unstable. It's interesting how that physical image maps onto the economic idea, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
That sense of inflation, like things could just pop.
Pop, yeah.
And then there's slump, like the U.S. housing slump mentioned in the materials.
Yeah.
That felt global.
It did have wide effects. Slump paints a picture of a real downturn, things seriously slowing down.
And the materials mentioned belt-tightening strategies to survive a slump. Tells you it's about cutting back, being careful.
Exactly. A slump implies a significant decline, often over a period impacting a large area. Now, slack, that's interesting too.
Yeah, the example was, she has been very slack in her study lately. So, not putting in the effort.
Right. Lazy, maybe, or just not focused. But then we also talk about a slack economy.
Ah, okay. How does that connect?
Think of it as things not being fully utilized. There's unused capacity, maybe factories aren't running full tilt, unemployment might be up. It's like there's looseness. Things aren't tight and active.
So maybe after a slump, the economy could be described as slack for a while. Still slow, not back to full speed.
That's a very common scenario, yes. Or even within a bubble, perhaps some sectors are booming while others are experiencing slack. They aren't always mutually exclusive across an entire complex economy.
It's all interconnected. So when you're reading, say, economic news for the exam, picking up on these nuances, bubble, slump, slack, how does that help you understand the real picture?
It gives you a much richer reading. Bubble flags fragility, potential instability. Slump signals contraction, difficulty. Slack suggests underperformance, maybe potential for growth or further decline. It's way beyond just the dictionary definition. It's about grasping the economic narrative.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's switch gears. How about words ending in lingress? We've got progress, aggressive, Congress, Parliament, and advance. There's this shared idea of moving, stepping, but in really different ways.
Yes, that flowgress root often means to step or to go. So progress, that's pretty straightforward, right?
Yeah, like they have made a lot of progress, or using regular tests to monitor the progress of each child. It's clearly about moving forward, improving.
Improvement, hitting goals, then aggressive. The example of seals showing aggressive behavior towards swimmers, well, that's clearly hostile.
It's definitely negative there. Forceful.
But then the materials contrast it with being more aggressive in, say, a job search, which means being proactive, assertive.
Right, so it's got this dual nature. It can be negative, you get aggression, aggressor, but also neutral or even positive, like being driven.
Precisely. Context is everything with aggressive. It implies forcefulness, which can be used destructively or constructively.
Okay, now Congress and Parliament.
Ah, the legislative bodies. Congress will vote on the proposals tomorrow. That clearly points to the U.S. system, whereas the issue is debated in Parliament, usually signals the UK or maybe Canada or Australia.
So knowing the word helps you place the context geographically, politically. You wouldn't usually say the British Congress.
Not typically, no. It's about recognizing those specific governmental structures. Finally, advance. This one feels like it has a lot of layers.
It does. It can be a noun, meaning progress, like an advancing career or advances in computers.
Yep. Or a verb, moving forward, like troops advancing.
Or promoting someone.
Yeah.
Or knowing something in advance. beforehand.
Right. And then the adjective advanced for high-level stuff, and that key phrase in advance. How do you think all these different shades of advance work together?
Well, they all seem to circle back to that core idea of moving forward, don't they? Forward in time or position or knowledge.
Exactly. Whether it's tech advances, moving up the career ladder, or getting information in advance, that fundamental idea of being ahead or moving forward is key. Spotting which meaning is intended depends entirely on the sentence structure.
Okay, next cluster. Equal, equivalent, and adequate. These all touch on sameness or sufficiency, but with important distinctions.
Very important distinctions. Equal is fundamental, isn't it? Like, everyone is born equal. It speaks to inherent sameness in rights, status, opportunity.
And the related words reinforce that equally, and especially equality, like equality of opportunity. Fairness.
Fairness, sameness in a core way. Then equivalent. The example, this qualification is the equivalent of a degree, suggests a similar level, maybe comparable value or function.
Right, like they can stand in for each other. But then there's that exam sentence example.
Whoa.
Ah, yes, the one about regretting having children being seen by some as equivalent to admitting you support kitten killing.
Yeah. That uses equivalent in such a strong way. It's not saying they are the same thing, but that in terms of maybe social taboo or perceived wrongness in that argument, they're being presented as equal. Powerful stuff.
Extremely powerful. It equates the impact or the moral weight in that specific rhetorical context. It forces you to analyze the underlying comparison being made. It's not about literal sameness, but equivalence in severity or implication.
Tim, but you really think about how words are used in arguments, okay? Then adequate.
Adequate, needing adequate food, or a room being small but adequate, what does that suggest to you?
Like, it's enough. It does the job. Maybe not great, maybe not luxurious, but it meets the basic need. Sufficient. Sufficient is a good word for it. It meets the requirements. And the opposite, inadequate, like an inadequate computer, confirms that it doesn't meet the standard. So can you think of a time when something might be adequate but definitely not equivalent?
Hey, let me think. Maybe like having adequate lighting to read a book. Just enough light. But that lighting setup wouldn't be equivalent to professional studio lighting for photography, right?
Perfect example.
One is just enough for a basic task. The other meets a much higher, different standard. So adequate is about meeting a minimum bar, while equivalent is more about a direct match in value, function, or level.
You've nailed it. Adequate is sufficiency. Equivalent is parity.
Great. Let's move to our next group, the value words. Evaluate, devalue, undervalue, precious, appreciate, treasure, expend, and costly. Lots here about judging worth.
A very rich set indeed. It all revolves around assigning or recognizing worth. Evaluate is the act of assessing, right? Like needing to learn how to evaluate them properly.
And the noun evaluation is that assessment itself, like an unfair student evaluation of a teacher.
Exactly. Then devalue and undervalue. They both lower the value, but how are they different, do you think?
Devalue, like work at home being ignored and devalued, or a currency rapidly devaluing. It feels like an actual reduction in status or worth, maybe caused by external factors.
Okay, and undervalue.
Like thinking your house has been undervalued. That feels more like the true worth isn't being recognized. It's seen as less valuable than it should be. So maybe actual decrease versus perceived lack of recognition.
That's a really helpful way to think about it. Devalue often implies an objective drop, while undervalue suggests a subjective assessment that something deserves more recognition or a higher price. Good distinction.
Okay, then precious. Wasting precious time. Clean water as a precious commodity. High value, often because it's limited or vital.
Absolutely. High intrinsic worth. Now, appreciate. This one's interesting.
Yeah, two main senses. Appreciating great literature, valuing it highly.
Right. Intellectual or aesthetic value.
And then appreciating payment in cash, being thankful for it.
Gratitude. Recognizing a benefit received. So it covers both recognizing inherent worth and feeling thankful.
Cool. And treasure. That can be literal riches, gold and silver, or something personally significant, a most treasured possession.
And it's a verb, too, to treasure something. And finding forgotten treasures that evokes that sense of hidden or rediscovered value.
Okay, expend. Feels a bit more formal than spend or use, like birds in V formation expending less energy.
Exactly. It implies using up a resource energy, time, money. It connects to expense and expenditure, which are often about financial cost.
Which leads nicely to costly. Straightforwardly expensive, like new furniture being potentially too costly.
Yep, high price or involving great loss or sacrifice.
So thinking about all these all-value words, how does having these nuances in your toolkit affect how you read, say, an article about economics, or maybe even a personal essay? Well, it lets you understand why something is valued or not valued. Is it about money, emotion, scarcity, practicality? Who is doing the valuing? It adds like layers of meaning.
Layers of meaning. That's it exactly. It allows for a much deeper, more critical reading.
Okay, last group for today. The who line words. Signal, assigned, appoint, resign, quit, designate, significant, and signify. All related to indicating meaning, marking something, or giving roles.
A very useful set for precision. Signal seems the most direct, doesn't it? A signal for the car to stop, traffic signals, a clear cue.
Very clear. Then assign and appoint, both about giving roles or tasks.
But with a different feel, perhaps? Assign, like a teacher assigning homework, feels maybe more routine, less formal.
Yeah, it could be. While appoint, like being appointed ambassador, or Congress appointing a commission that feels more official. Formal, high-level designation.
Absolutely. Appoint often carries a sense of authority, official selection. And appointment itself is interesting. It can be the role or the meeting.
Right, the scheduled time. Okay, then resign and quit. Both mean leaving a job.
But again, nuance. Resign usually suggests a formal, often voluntary departure. You hand in your resignation.
More planned, maybe. Whereas quit, like someone quitting a show due to bad health, it can feel more abrupt, maybe less formal sometimes.
That's often the implication, yes. Though people use them interchangeably sometimes, resign tends to carry more formality.
Okay, designate. The example was pushing an agency to designate a bird as endangered.
So officially labeling or classifying something for a specific status or purpose, giving it an official sign or category.
Makes sense. And significant, like a significant increase. Important, noteworthy.
Definitely. And the noun significance is that importance. The example about people not realizing the significance of uploading content really hits home today, doesn't it?
It really does. Finally, signify. What something means or represents. A white belt signifying a beginner.
It's about the meaning behind the sign or symbol. So looking at all these sign words together, how do they contribute to clearer communication, especially in academic or formal contexts?
Well, they let you be really precise, don't they, about how information is indicated, how roles are given, how importance is marked. Using the right word appoint instead of just give a job, or designate instead of just call it, avoids confusion.
Reduces ambiguity. It adds clarity and formality where needed. Choosing the exact word, signal, assign, appoint, designate, signify makes the meaning unmistakable.
Wow, okay. We've really unpacked those 25 words from Day 30, Part 1. It's kind of amazing how seeing them in these groups, thinking about the connections and the context, it makes them seem much less daunting.
It really does, doesn't it? Looking at the economic cluster, the egress words, the equal, equivalent, adequate trio, the lay value family, and the e-sign set, you start seeing the patterns and the subtle differences.
Yeah, the relationships between them.
Exactly, and how they function differently depending on the situation.
Absolutely. So for you listening, hopefully this deep dive really shows that building vocabulary isn't, just rote memorization of lists.
None at all.
By digging into how these words work, in context, real examples, those tricky exam sentences, you're sharpening those vital reading and analytical skills.
Skills you absolutely need for the exam and honestly for any complex reading you do later on.
Totally. So we really hope you'll revisit that Day 30 Part 1 list now, maybe with fresh eyes.
Yeah, think about the examples we discussed. Try to make your own sentences. See if any of those aha moments happen for you.
And hey, if they do, feel free to share. We genuinely love to hear any insights or connections you make.
Definitely.
For now, though, the big takeaway is just this. Seeing how words connect, understanding them in different scenarios, that's your key to unlocking deeper meaning and really smashing those academic goals.
Keep that curiosity going with all your vocabulary study. It pays off.